jury found the first son guilty on all counts for lying about his drug use to buy a gun. A sentencing date has yet to be scheduled, but Hunter is now facing a hefty fine of $750,000 and a maximum of 25 years in prison, although he's unlikely to do any prison time here. Hunter saying after the verdict, quote, "I am more grateful today for the love and support I experienced this last week from Melissa, my family, my friends, and my community than I am disappointed by the outcome." President Biden is seen hugging Hunter in Delaware after the verdict. The president has defended his son for years, saying Hunter did nothing wrong.
Still think that the stories from the fall about your son Hunter were rushing disinformation at his smear campaign, like you said?
Yes. God love you, man. You're a one-horse pony. I promise you, my Justice Department will be totally on its own, making its judgments about how they should proceed.
Are you confident your son Hunter did nothing wrong?
I'm confident.
Did Hunter lie to make a crime? Have you spoken to your son, Mr. President-elect?
Proud of my son.
One of the jurors in the trial says Hunter's daughter Naomi's testimony hurt Hunter's defense, saying, quote, "I don't think any daughter should have to be up there testifying on her father's behalf. That was heart-wrenching, and I think all the jurors felt the same thing." Another juror also speaking out about the trial. Watch.
Biden was on trial, and he was just like anybody else. Nobody is above the law, no matter who you are. Politics played no part in this whatsoever.
Americans also reacting to the verdict.
Anybody, whether they're famous or not, answers to whatever the jury decides.
I'm happy. I think justice is definitely served.
He needs to suffer whatever consequences he deserves.
If he is truly guilty, he should be brought to justice.
Exactly. I agree.
Do the crime, do the time.
The first son is also facing another federal trial, which is expected to begin in September, over allegedly failing to pay over $1 million in taxes. Those taxes have since been paid. Hunter Biden has pleaded not guilty.
Let me tell you what's going to happen. You'll probably threaten to resign, but in the end, I will be released. The reason I'll be released is the same reason we think I'll be convicted. I do rub shoulders with some of the most vile, sadistic men calling themselves leaders today. But a president of the United States, sometimes it's embarrassing to have his fingerprints on the guns.
What's that one from, Jerry? What's it 24? Oh, Lord of War. Okay, all right. Okay, I hate it when there's a cultural reference. I don't know. We do our best to be smart with cultural references on this program. Sometimes you run one up on me, Jerry. You got me. That worked really well, actually. That face swap with Hunter Biden worked very well. Today is Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. Hunter's guilty verdict could just be the beginning of the end for the Biden crime family, but what needs to happen next? New polls also show that Hunter's guilty verdict will hurt Joe in November, and he has another trial coming up. What's going to happen next? Well, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, will be joining the program, along with Mike McCormick, the former stenographer for Joe Biden and somebody who was there at the courthouse in Wilmington yesterday. So it's going to be a very interesting show. We're going to find out and place sort of strategy outlooks on where we're going the entire show today and what all of this actually means. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. So we travel again at the end of this week. We'll be going to the People's Convention in Detroit, Michigan. I'm not sure if we actually have the graphic or anything to put up, but maybe we can grab that, pop it on up. We're going to go into the People's Convention in Michigan. We'll be on stage with some of our favorite patriots and freedom fighters, along with President Trump. Very, very excited about that. We're going to be doing some content in Detroit. Very excited about that, too. Detroit's not doing super well. Might be an interesting case study in what not to do if you are an American city, with the leaders not to elect, the policies not to follow. And you can expect us to cover all of it, ladies and gentlemen. But when we travel, it is really important for us to stay up on our health. This is a really tough travel season. It's flu season right now in Florida. And yeah, I got to tell you, we were down bad a few weeks ago, and we're still recovering. Still recovering. So it's something that really you got to take seriously. And it's something that we take seriously, obviously, because we wish to stay online and on air. That is why we're proud to partner with the Wellness Company. The Wellness Company lets us and allows us to be prepared for anything. Their emergency health kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications, as well as a guidebook for safe use for these medications. Rest assured knowing that you have the emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics on hand to help keep your family safe for whatever is thrown at us next. And I can tell you, we literally used these kits over the last 2 weeks. It's been awesome working with the Wellness Company. And they've got us out of a couple of health jams. So it's kept us on air and kept us spry. So please just go to twc.health/Benny. That's twc.health/Benny and enter the code Benny for 10% off. twc.health/Benny for 10% off. Okay, so let's talk about very unhealthy dynamics. Let's talk about the nature of Joe Biden and the nature of the Biden family, ladies and gentlemen. It's really important for us to accept the fact that you're not dealing with a moral people when you're talking about the Biden. In fact, you're dealing with amoral or immoral people. And that's clearly and obviously provable in what's been occurring in the courthouse in Delaware. Now, there was a guilty conviction yesterday, and we were pretty shocked at that. And we're glass half full optimists on this program. We like the silver linings. We'll take the guilty verdict. I'm going to stand by that. I know there's a bunch of people, Charlie Kirk, Vivek, Ramaswamy, and everybody saying, like, Stephen Miller, friends of the show and people that we really respect. Stephen Miller, Vivek, Charlie, they all come on the show, and I consider them friends. And they're all like, it's a psyop, don't buy it. It's a psyop. Hey, Alex, maybe we can grab like the Vivek video that he put up. And they're like, don't buy it. But I got to tell you, I'll buy it, and I'll say this: like, I'll take the guilty verdict as the first step in a long path towards justice for the Biden crime family. However, I can also admit that Charlie, Stephen Miller, and Vivek Ramaswamy are correct in their assessment that this is a mask to hide the larger Biden crimes, of which we will detail on this program. And we'll show you the exculpatory, demonstrable, empirical evidence on this show of the Biden crimes that are far more severe than the lying on the federal gun form, which, again, who knows if Hunter Biden will serve any time in prison. Ironically, Hunter Biden effectively won't spend any time in prison because with the stroke of a pen, Joe Biden will be able to eliminate this from his record forever. Joe Biden will be defeated in November, and we believe this. In our bones, we believe this. And we think that Joe Biden, who is a liar, and who has always and only ever protected his son and used his power to leverage and protect his children and his own family, whilst destroying millions of other families across America. And we think that Joe Biden will continue in that line of behavior, and that we see no evidence or indication that he won't. So we believe that Joe Biden will have a pocket pardon and will pardon his son upon leaving office in defeat. And he'll use his last moments, the old pocket pardon, right? Donald Trump will be being sworn in on the Bible, and that pardon will go out the morning of. And Hunter Biden will be cleared of these charges. And that's what this show is about. This show is about determining a number of things in a path moving forward, avenues to prosecute the Bidens for their prosecutable crimes. Now, there is something that Hunter Biden has not been prosecuted for, and that is his illicit drug use. He's being prosecuted for lying on a federal form, and the person who actually wrote the laws where you could that you could use to prosecute Hunter Biden, it'd be very, very familiar to Hunter Biden. He's actually this guy.
If you have a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, $1/4 of $1, we passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says if you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation. You get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice. Now, the fact of the matter is, we've gone from there.
5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice, says Joe Biden in that creepy little toothy thing that he does when he speaks through his teeth like this. 5 years in jail. This is why meme maker Jerry always or regularly uses Jim Carrey as a Joe Biden caricature. 5 years in jail, because he does do these weird little Jim Carrey things. So that's Joe Biden passing some of the strictest crack laws as part of the 94 crime bill that predominantly locked up black and brown kids, destroyed families, and put the hundreds of thousands of Americans in prison with mandatory minimum sentencing that really just truly destroyed lives. If you have crack at the size of this quarter, says Joe Biden, well, you're done for here. Well, it's really interesting that Joe Biden says that because, you know, if we move on over here to the evidence presented at Hunter Biden's trial, let's see if we can find crack the size of a quarter. Let's just go ahead and see. So, first piece of evidence is obviously the lying on the gun form. Hunter Biden is now guilty of that. This is the firearm that he purchased while on crack. Now, ironically, Joe Biden gave a speech about gun safety yesterday because God's irony is unmatched and God's sense of humor is unrivaled. Here's all the accoutrement that Hunter Biden bought for his gun. Then his crazy ex, his dead brother's widow that he was banging, she went threw the gun in the dumpster. And then, okay, now we start to get to the point where, Joe, we could start getting a quarter worth of crack. You see, you'd have to have a lot of crack in order to stain your gun pouch. You can see there the actual white substance on the gun pouch. This comes directly from the federal government. That's strange. This is the federal government that's bound by Joe Biden's crack laws. So wouldn't this be grounds to have minimums of 5 years in prison for Hunter Biden based on what Joe Biden passed? Let's continue here. So of course they dumped the gun in the trash can. Don't ever do this. The Mac shop repair store, obviously proving that Hunter Biden was using the gun very irresponsibly, taking naked photos with the gun, crack paraphernalia and drug paraphernalia all throughout the laptop. This is one of the more interesting things we learned, of course, that the federal government knew the laptop was real. They continued to lie to the American people all through the year of 2020. They actually did war games with the executives at Facebook and the Aspen Institute in order to stop what they called a Russian hack and leak, because they all knew that the laptop was real. So when the FBI is sitting there briefing Twitter and Facebook about suppressing information that they knew was real, they admitted to in this trial, who goes to prison for that? Who's going to be held responsible for that? Where do we hold those people responsible? Who made that decision at the FBI? More importantly, what an insult to us as a movement, because our guy was in office. You know, Donald Trump was in office when this happened. Donald Trump was in charge of the FBI. So here's the FBI rigging an election against the sitting president. Can we sort of digest that? Like, let that manifest and wash over you. So the FBI knows Hunter Biden's laptop's real. They know that there is a font, a fountain that springs eternal of evidence against the Biden crime family on that laptop. And they not only tried to stop it from coming out, they did everything they could to suppress it. So if you shared it, your account would be deleted, which was the case on X, formerly Twitter. If you shared the information about Hunter Biden's laptop, then your account would be deleted. That's a matter of fact. It happened to us. They took down the tweets. You couldn't even share the New York Post story. The federal government was coordinating that. We know because of the Twitter files that the FBI agents were saying that that laptop was part of a Russian hack and leak operation. So you got to suppress it. They had it all planned out. It's incredible. They knew it was real. Who goes to prison for that? Who decided to do that? Can somebody name the FBI agent? Who at the FBI made that decision? It had to be Christopher Wray, the guy that Donald Trump appointed. It had to be, right? I mean, that went way to the very top. Now we get to the interesting parts. Okay, let's get back here. Now we get to the very interesting parts. The actual crack rocks. So here we go. Let's you can scroll down. There we go. So Joe Biden from the Senate floor said if you were found with crack the size of a quarter, that you have a guaranteed minimum of 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice. Judge has to sentence you to 5 years in jail. Well, that looks a little more. This came directly from Hunter Biden. This looks a little bit more than a quarter. What does it say about the Biden family? What does it say about justice to the Biden family? Joe Biden was happy locking up hundreds of thousands. I'm not going to talk about the merits of the law. I'm a law and order guy. You shouldn't have crack, okay? I'm a law and order guy. I don't want a bunch of drug fiends on the streets. I am not a restorative justice guy. I'm not going to sit here and argue that there needs to be all these loose rules for all these criminals. No. But I am going to say this. If you write the law that locks up hundreds of thousands of other kids, men, fathers, whatever, and then behind the scenes, you are doing everything you can to spring your jailbird kid from prison every time he smokes crack, well, you're a monster, dude. You're a monster. You're a piece of garbage. And so this is just the thing. We got to line it up, okay? So here you are. So have a look at that. The best that I got, I'm from Iowa. The best that I got is that looks like when there's a lot of snow and you take your ice scraper and you scrape all that snow and ice off your windshield, and you get these big chunks of ice. That's what that looks like. That's that. That's what it looks like to me. Okay? So you have this giant ice scraper bag of crack for Hunter Biden. And just a reminder, here's what this is what his father said. Let's just play the clip just one more time. This is what Joe Biden said about people who use crack the size of that baggie or more.
If you have a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, 1/4 of $1, we passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says if you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation. You get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice. Now, the fact of the matter is, we've gone from this.
Look at this. Look at this image. Can we punch in on that image? Look at this image. This will show you the timber of the Biden family. Look at this. Tell me God doesn't have the greatest sense of humor and the greatest irony. Look at this. Gun Sense University is where Joe Biden spoke yesterday. The other side of the image is Joe Biden's only surviving son, found guilty on all 3 gun counts, gun felonies. Let's look at that split screen. Possibly the greatest image in the history of cable news. Gun Sense University, says Joe Biden. Yeah. Unmatched, unrivaled. So this, listen, I will admit to you, I'm an optimist. I'm a glass half full guy. On the sunny side of the street, I was okay with this guilty verdict. I was celebrating it yesterday. However, there are many that I respect that said, don't buy it. This is something that Vivek put up that went thermonuclear. Vivek's take is it's all a psyop, and it's all meant to distract you while they truly persecute Trump. I don't disagree with him. Let's listen.
So Hunter Biden was convicted. Big freaking deal. This trial was a sham. Just like the Trump trial, it was a sham, but a sham for a different reason. It's a sham designed to legitimize the Trump conviction. That's why it came right after, even for charges that date way far back. But it also avoids accountability for the Biden crime family on the actual things that Hunter Biden should have been charged for. Like, for example, peddling foreign influence while his actual father, Joe Biden, was the vice president of the United States. Hunter had no business serving on the board of a Ukrainian energy company, a state-affiliated energy company that's affiliated with the same country, Ukraine, that his father, now as the U.S. president, is sending hundreds of billions of dollars of your taxpayer money to. That's where the real crimes lie. So this deflects accountability for the actual investigations that are more close to implicating Joe Biden, while coming in convenient timing right after the sham Trump conviction in the veil of bipartisanship. Don't buy it. I said this before, I'll say it again. This is a smoke screen, and the reality is you got to cut through it to get to the essence of what's happening in this country.
So that's a Vivek full screen takeover there of our studio. Interesting. Here we go.
I was convicted.
There we go.
Deal. This trial was a sham.
There we go. Okay. So this is Vivek's take, and this is what Vivek put up on social media. Let's pop the tweet up, please. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The Hunter Biden trial was a sham. It's a smokescreen to legitimize the Trump conviction, to deflect attention from the Biden family, actual likely crimes, selling off our foreign policy to make their family rich. Don't fall for it. This has nearly 30,000 reposts and 106,000 likes. And so this very, very much resonated, and it's definitely worth exploring. What are we exploring? Well, let's take for a second the actions of Joe Biden when he knew that he would be leaving office. They had been defeated in 2016, and what was he doing? It's amazing when somebody's house is on fire and the flames are burning, and you assume that the flames are going to encompass the entire house and going to rip the place down. You naturally will travel towards and go to the most precious thing that you have in that house. Most people would, of course, run and grab their children. If their children are out of the house, and they'll run maybe to their safe and grab precious family heirlooms that can't be replaced. Whatever you have in your safe that is irreplaceable, right? Like perhaps it's a family scrapbook, something from your grandmother. Maybe it's your gold, it's something you don't want to be consumed entirely by the flames. When Joe Biden's house was burning down, when Joe Biden's house was on fire, meaning Donald Trump had won, and Donald Trump was coming into office and was going to get unlimited access to everything every scam and scheme that the Bidens were running out of their offices during his 8 years as vice president. Hunter Biden, of course, being the bag man for all of this. Joe Biden was, of course, running to and gathering up the most precious things in his house. The most valuable things in Joe Biden's house was obviously covering up his crimes in Ukraine. And you know this because in the waning moments, in the waning seconds of Joe Biden's time as vice president, Donald Trump had already been elected. Joe Biden had only a matter of hours left in office. Joe Biden spent his time frantically on the phone calling the then president of Ukraine, a guy named Poroshenko, demanding that he shut down the banks that were facilitating all the payments to his family. How this isn't the biggest story on earth, I don't know. But I got to tell you, this call, the audio of which we will play for you now, is the most damning piece of evidence to lock up Joe Biden for the rest of his life if a real special prosecutor is appointed when Donald Trump becomes president. And that's the way I see this. The way that I see this is a path to, the first step in a long path into facilitating, identifying, and creating a structure for the criminality of the Biden family. And you can start with Hunter and you can work your way up to Joe. No, they didn't get him on the FARA violations, but the evidence is all there. And all you need is a real special prosecutor to create the actual groundwork for the prosecution of Joe Biden. And here is your first piece of evidence. In the waning hours of Joe Biden's time as vice president, he's not taking photos with his grandkids. He's not writing letters to the world leaders of the United Kingdom or Japan in friendship and love, Joe Biden. He's not doing that. He's not doing all the normal things you'd assume a vice president would do, you know, sort of savoring up and gathering the precious moments of office. He's in a panic calling Poroshenko. Here we go.
Biden goes into overdrive to clean up loose ends. November 16, 2016, 2 weeks after Donald Trump's victory, Joe Biden is on the phone with Poroshenko, his voice tenser now than before.
This is getting very, very close. What I don't want to have happen, I don't want Trump to get in a position where he thinks he's about to buy onto a policy where the financial system is going to collapse and he's going to be looked to pour more money into Ukraine. That's how he'll think about it before he gets sophisticated enough to know the detail.
In other words, Biden does not want Ukraine asking for more money from Trump. Doing so would cause Trump to look into the details.
So anything you can do to push the Privat Bank to closure so that the IMF loan comes forward, I would respectfully suggest is critically important to your economic as well as physical security.
Dude, they impeached Donald Trump for saying investigate how crooked this Joe Biden family is. They impeached him for that. And this is how sacrosanct the funding of the Ukraine war actually is. What did Donald Trump do? He threatened to hold up deadly weapons to Ukraine unless they launched this investigation into the criminality of the Bidens. And they impeached Trump for that. They impeached Trump for asking questions about this. These are the real crimes. You know something's infected when you press on it and it hurts. You know something's broken when you grab it and it feels pain. What are they trying to cover up? What are they actually worried about? Well, they are actually worried about Hunter Biden's gun charges, and they are really worried about these FARA violations, and that's why they bundled it all into a get-out-of-jail-free card that was supposed to be Hunter Biden's end of Hunter Biden's prosecution forever on these things. Now, in his own arrogance and in his own hubris, Hunter Biden blew up that deal, and the judge sniffed it out. The government tried to give them a get-out-of-jail-free card because they knew what they were doing here in Ukraine. This is why Joe Biden was so obsessed with Ukraine and the prosecutors and the ethics of the Ukrainian government. He was this worried about it because his family was making mountains of cash there. Had to get shook and fired. We actually have that phone call. Here we go.
A second positive news for you. Yesterday, I meet with the General Prosecutor Shokin.
Yes.
And despite of the fact that we didn't have any corruption charges, we don't have any information about he doing something wrong, I especially asked him, no, it was the day before yesterday, I especially asked him to resign. In his position as a state person, and despite of the fact that he has a support in the parliament. And as a finish of my meeting with him, he promised me to give me the statement on resignation. And 1 hour ago, he bring me the written statement of his resignation.
Great.
And this is my second step for keeping my promises.
I agree.
Ever heard that? You know, we played it on this show a bunch. Why would the vice president of the United States be so obsessed with a special prosecutor in Ukraine? Why would the vice president of the United States be so concerned about a guy looking into a corrupt oil company? Because Joe Biden was getting all the profits from that oil company. That's why. The racket is simple. You use the power, the awesome power of the United States of America to enrich yourself and enrich your family and to strip mine the rest of the world of their natural resources and wealth and to put that into your own pockets. And you do it at the point of a gun. He needed Shokin to be fired because Shokin was looking into his operation. He needed the Privat bank to be shut down. You heard there in both calls, you have Poroshenko, who's the president of Ukraine, on the calls saying, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'll shut down the bank. Yes, I'll fire the prosecutor. I'll do all these things. They're not corrupt. We find no corruption in these people. We don't understand why you need us to close down banks. But yeah, sure. Why are we funding the Ukraine war? It's because Zelensky has them by the balls. I mean, they know for a fact that all this evidence exists. All this evidence exists in Ukraine. And the moment things go truly south there, that evidence can be opened up like a Pandora's box. All those records still exist. Everything's still there. Also, the real question is, was Hunter Biden acting as an agent, a cutout for our intelligence agencies in Ukraine? We know as a matter of fact that the CIA has 7 different station houses in Ukraine. The New York Times has published all of this. And that part of the reason that we need to create such a bloody offensive war there is because it's effectively the 51st U.S. client state of our State Department. The Bidens were sent in there to set that operation up. That's why Ukraine was inside of the Biden wheelhouse. That operation was set up to enrich the Bidens and to create a client superstate of the CIA. Was Hunter Biden engaging in CIA activity there? And is that why Hunter Biden's lawyer is protected by the CIA, as we covered last week? Hunter Biden's lawyer was not allowed to be deposed by the IRS because he's a protected CIA asset. That's a matter of fact. That's a matter of record. The CIA stopped and put a giant steel wall between the investigators going after Abe Lowell. Why? Well, because most likely they're trying to cover their tracks here. And it really makes you wonder, like, how deep does the rabbit hole go? Victor Shokin did an interview on Fox where he was asked about this. And Victor Shokin, who's the prosecutor who was looking into the Bidens, who got fired by the Bidens, straight up said, yeah, this is what happened. Watch.
Earlier. Do you believe that Joe Biden or Hunter Biden got bribes?
I do not want to deal in unproven facts, but my firm personal conviction is that, yes, this was the case. They were being bribed. The fact that Joe Biden gave away $1 billion in U.S. money in exchange for my dismissal, my firing, isn't that alone a case of corruption?
So, yes. And this is what they don't want you to look into. And this is what a second Trump administration must look into. And so, ladies and gentlemen, joining us now, somebody who would presumably have some major legal weight to throw around in a second Trump administration, and the strategies laid down therein. Alina Habba, who is Donald Trump's lawyer, joins us now to comment. Alina, thank you so much for being on the program. We're doing our very best here to accept a W, which is a guilty verdict for the Bidens, see that as a framework and a groundwork to be laid for the criminality of the Bidens, and then continue the pressure going forward to get after the Bidens' real crimes. Is that the strategy that you see?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we can't look at this as a big W. I think it is a bit more of a ruse, to be honest. Them trying to change the Trump narrative from the dual system of justice that I know all too well to, hey, look at us, we're being fair and impartial. No, you're not. They took three things that he did. The jury obviously found him guilty, but the guy was smiling leaving court. I mean, that's just not realistic, number one. Number two, I don't want to see the small stuff to make up for the big crimes. And that's what we are seeing. There are people that commit real crimes. That's not Donald Trump. We've heard and seen copies of checks. We've seen that America is for sale effectively under this administration. And that's unacceptable to me. And those are the real issues that I think a Trump second administration would have to examine and make sure that at no point do we put the office of the presidency or the American public's interest second to a personal financial gain.
So there seems to be so much evidence that would tie the Biden family to not just Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, China, and influence peddling around the globe. That's something that has been called out by Charlie Kirk and Stephen Miller, Vivek, and a bunch of our friends on this program, saying those are the real crimes, and they refuse to prosecute those crimes. Why are they refusing to prosecute those crimes? What would that prosecution actually look like?
Probably far worse than the fake hoaxes that they brought against my client, because those would involve a couple allies that have probably paid a pretty penny to be protected. The fact that, this image right here has been our lives for the past few years with President Trump in an effort to take down the biggest voice in America that's for America and to silence him. But the actual corruption is not being examined, which is in the current administration. And there's no question that after listening to the gentleman that was just on prior, how is that not bribery, what he just said? That is. I mean, it's clear as day. Instead, you've got President Trump being convicted in the state of New York for something he didn't do. He was in the Oval Office. There was an accountant that booked a legal expense as a legal expense. And they're saying that's a crime. Meanwhile, you can take money, sell America, weaponize people that are killing women, raping women, and we're supposed to act like that's okay. America's supposed to be the example. And I really can't wait until November. I hope that it's a strong change for us to get back to the America we know and to clean house. Politicians are not supposed to be getting rich off inside information and foreign policies and deals. It's just not the way you're supposed to do it. It's a sacrifice to go into an administration. But we're seeing the opposite, frankly.
So would you be in favor of a special counsel being appointed to simply establish a fact pattern here and to do what the American people would require in this instance? I mean, again, a special counsel cleared Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump's a Russian agent. No, he's not, right? Like that's established. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but I think more importantly, look, number one, you have to start there. You have to have an investigation. You have to do it. You have to do it methodically, and you have to do it fairly. And I always say that Constitution matters. I don't care what your politics are. We have to be fair, but we have to dig. and you have to look, and you have to look at the right things. You don't get to spy on people for the sake of spying on them because they're your political opponent. You don't get to make up cases against them. I'm saying real crimes, real issues, they need to be handled. The American people, I think, are very sick of seeing people get called in, subpoenaed, but nothing happens. I know I'm sick of it. So I think there needs to be accountability. We need to get the American people to trust, again, the Department of Justice. I think that has been lost on a lot of Americans under Merrick Garland, frankly. And I think that we need to fix it, and fix it very quickly, because, you really only have a couple years when you're in there to get things moving. And that's not retribution. That's called American balance. We need to be balanced again. We need to stop going after political opponents. We need to start caring about America first. So yeah, I think absolutely there needs to be special counsel. We need to wipe out any corrupt AGs and DAs that may have backed by radical left financial, invested people, radical right. I don't care what side you're on. We can't have that in the American justice system. We just can't.
Just really quickly here, final question. What do these Hunter Biden prosecutions mean? You called them a ruse. So can you talk to me about what the strategy is here? They're just going to slap him on the wrist, right? Yeah. Does he get a pardon from Joe Biden? What's the actual, what do you believe that the DOJ and the Biden regime strategy is here with Hunter?
You want my hypothetical, what I actually think they're doing? I think that they're trying to make it look like everything is fair. I think that they have to save face. I think that the three federal counts that he was convicted of, whether they even send him to jail for a month, a week, I think it'll get pushed. And then I think that when Joe Biden loses, he will pardon him on his last day. I think that, I think they're struggling. I think they're struggling for credibility, and they're trying to use this case to find a little bit of credibility. And it's not working, for me at least. For me, I'm seeing it as, okay, hey, look, we did not have a dual system of justice. All those crazy MAGA people, they're just making it up. No, we still do, because you made up what you went after Trump for. And this is not made up. This is somebody who has a serious, the laptop from hell that they denied is now a fact. The, the drugs, the hookers, the whatever. If this was Donald Trump's kids, this would never be tried and heard a few months out of the election. It would have been done immediately, because they have no mercy when you're a Trump. And that's why I say it's a ruse. They're saying we're fair. You're not fair. You're not fair at all. What I've lived with President Trump, which has been a very small amount of what he's actually gone through, is not fair. The judges, the corruption, the AGs, the DAs going after him for nothing. It's not fair. And it's frankly not fair to the American people, because we're allowed to get to vote for who we want. And they're trying to stop us from that. It's election interference.
It's remarkable what you brought up right there with election interference and the laptop, and that they knew it was all real. They all knew it was real. Every one of them knew that they admitted it's real. They said they have 18,000 pages of information, data from it. And then the FBI actively operated behind the scenes to go to X and to go to Facebook and to say it's disinformation. They ran war games for its release, and they did that to rig the election. I mean, they're on its face.
It's censorship. It's censorship. It's what they do in Russia. It's what they do in China. It's what they do in third world countries. They don't do this to Americans. We're not supposed to censor. We're not supposed to control what you see on TV and control what you read. I would not allow that. I'm very much in line with Elon Musk's philosophy. Censorship is just not okay. And by censoring and pulling back and hiding information, that's just not the FBI and DOJ's job. And it's disappointing to me that they would lower their standards like that. It really is.
Nobody was punished. So it's like, as a parent, it's like nobody was punished. So the behavior is going to continue. The bad behavior is going to continue until somebody gets punished. Yeah. Hopefully your boss goes in and actually deliver some spankings. Alina, thank you so much for being on the program as ever. And everybody go follow Alina as ever. And y'all know her. 240,000 Patriots. Can't be wrong. On to victory. Hopefully see you soon. We'll be on I'm sure you'll be at the convention. And
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll be. That's right. Well, yeah. Okay. All right. More questions for another time. Please join the program soon.
100%.
Thank you, Alina.
Thanks.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we certainly do want to establish the fact pattern here, and I guess it's back to square one. There's going to be another trial for Hunter Biden in September. That trial is going to be about Hunter Biden's taxes and his financial crimes. And so this is something that's going to obviously begin to spin toward the direction of establishment of the fact pattern of Biden criminality. Again, everybody calls it a ruse, and everybody says don't be fooled by it, and I don't disagree with them. I'm just saying it's good that we've established that the laptop's real. I'm saying it's good that they can't argue that ever again. It's good that we can now see that everything on there, including a mountain of incriminating evidence against Joe Biden himself, is all real. And so I view that as important and good and something that needs to be properly established. James Comer does too. The Republicans are, according to the betting markets, Republicans are going to keep the House and take the Senate and the White House right now. James Comer would presumably then be in charge once again of accountability and investigations. James Comer was on TV last night saying, listen, these Foreign Agent Registration Act violations, these are the big ones. These are the things that tied Hunter Biden directly to Joe Biden. These are the things that tie the policies of the Obama administration directly to the bags of money that Hunter Biden was getting. This is pay for play, and this is what needs to be investigated. James Comer, like a bulldog with a bone. Let's go.
And they're only focusing on a narrow tax delinquency and a gun charge, which they had to prosecute because he had pictures of it all over the internet. How does that make you feel?
Well, justice has not been served. Justice will not be served until the Department of Justice takes into account all of the financial crimes that the entire Biden family committed. It wasn't just Hunter Biden. It was also Joe Biden and Jim Biden. The entire family benefited from the Biden influence peddling schemes. We had 3 people testify who were once partners with Hunter Biden in these schemes. They testified under oath that the Bidens were selling the Biden brand. They were selling access to Joe Biden. There was never a legitimate business. We know from the IRS whistleblowers they never paid any taxes on the tens of millions of dollars that they took from adversaries around the world. We have laws in Congress, where I am right now, that prevent people from doing this. It's called the Foreign Agents Registration Act. It's called the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. We know that the Bidens have violated these laws. So until the Department of Justice takes the real serious crimes into account, justice has not been served. If I listed the top 10 crimes that the president's son committed, lying on a gun application wouldn't even make the cut.
That's so.
Top 10 crimes that Hunter Biden committed, lying on a gun application wouldn't make the cut. Well, that's pretty strong words from James Comer. James Comer effectively echoing what Alina Habba just said, which is that he's taking the fall and that Joe Biden's going to pardon him on his way out. And here, let's go.
Is Hunter Biden taking the fall to save his dad?
Well, it sure looks like that, and he looks like someone that's got a pardon in his back pocket. People ask today, will the president pardon Hunter Biden? Well, they're not finished. The Department of Justice isn't finished with him. First of all, they've got this tax evasion trial. Then they've got these criminal referrals. And as I've said many times over the past week, we're not finished. The criminal referrals were just the beginning of the accountability phase. We've gone through great lengths, and we've been very transparent and substantive with the American people about the money this family's taken in. We've been very transparent about the 20 shell companies, the LLCs that the Bidens had that appear to serve no purpose other than to launder money. And when I say launder, I'm using the word that 6 different banks used in those suspicious activity reports. They laundered money to 10 different Biden family members, and according to the IRS whistleblowers, they never paid any taxes on it.
And you're still looking at new bank records that you've just gotten your hands on.
Yes.
So I guess it's not over, right? Let's pray and everybody work and show up to ensure that James Comer retains his gavel and his capacity for investigation. He's just, an absolute bulldog. They have referred Hunter Biden and Jim Biden to Merrick Garland for prosecution because they lied to Congress. What is Merrick Garland going to do about that? Jonathan Turley saying this is quite the dilemma.
Well, I think that Garland now has an unavoidable test of principle. The 3 House committees sent him referrals of perjury by Hunter Biden and his uncle before Congress. Those referrals are very compelling. I don't see how there's a case to be made that those answers were anything other than false. Now, the Department of Justice was on a hair trigger to indict Trump officials. The question is whether Merrick Garland, as people expect, will scuttle any prosecution for perjury. So this is that other shoe dropping. Yes, this laptop was authenticated. Yes, these files are real. But after that, Hunter Biden, after they reviewed those files, he testified in Congress. And Congress believes, and there's a good basis for that belief, that he committed knowing perjury. These were questions that he knew were coming, and he gave false answers according to these committees. So what is Merrick Garland going to do about it? It's not time to write another op-ed. It's time to show that.
So Merrick Garland facing a number of major uphill battles right now. My executive producer sent me a clip that just happened in Congress, a press conference that happened moments ago from Jim Jordan standing beside the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, talking about how they are going to now be going after Merrick Garland himself. And they're going to hold Merrick Garland in contempt because Merrick Garland refuses to release the audio tapes of Joe Biden's interview with the DOJ. Now, this is something that Congress has a right to have. Congress is Article 1 of the Constitution. The executive branch is Article 2. Congress has the constitutional obligation of oversight. And inside of these recordings, Joe Biden admits to crimes. He admits to the crimes of openly sharing classified information to make money for his books, his ghostwriter. This is part of the reason that Joe Biden had classified information. The other reason that Joe Biden had classified information would presumably be to share it with our enemies. Maybe this is why all of these classified documents were stashed inside of fake schools that were paid for by the Chinese. It's not really difficult to put 2 and 2 together here. Jim Jordan, seconds ago, let's watch this, doing a press conference on Capitol Hill saying, we're just getting started here with the crimes of Biden and Merrick Garland's cover-up. Watch.
Last September, the Speaker of the House announced that the House of Representatives would be entering an impeachment inquiry phase of our oversight work. On December 13th, the full House of Representatives voted to do just that, to formalize that. This is a power that is exclusively resides in the House of Representatives, and one of the most important powers that we have as an institution and as a body. Robert Hur, on page 1 of his special counsel report, said Joe Biden knowingly kept classified information, Joe Biden knowingly disclosed classified information, and he disclosed that information to someone who wasn't allowed to get it. On page 231, he told us why Joe Biden did those things. He said Joe Biden had strong motivations for ignoring classified procedures because he was writing a book for which he got paid $8 million. So we have motive, an $8 million motive. We have the elements of the crime, knowingly keeping, knowingly disclosing, giving that information to someone who wasn't allowed to get it. We have all that, and yet the special counsel said he would not recommend charges for President Biden. We think we're entitled to, we know we're entitled to all the evidence, and that includes the best evidence, which is this audio tape. That's why we sent the subpoena. The Attorney General has been clear he's not going to give that information to us. So that's why we have the contempt resolution. We assume this is going to wind up in court, but we think our case is strong and we think that we will prevail. But step 1 is to pass the resolution holding the Attorney General in contempt for not giving the House of Representatives, the body who's in an impeachment inquiry phase of our oversight responsibilities, not giving us the best evidence. Finally, I would just say this. We think the privilege has already been waived. We think when they gave us the transcript, they've waived the privilege. And understand that there have already been times where the transcript that we've received from the White House doesn't match up with what was actually said by the President of the United States. And so, again, for all those reasons, We think we need this information, and that's why the resolution will be on the floor today.
Isn't that wild? That's wild. What a clip. So they're saying that they're lying in they're editing the transcript to try and make Joe Biden look better. They're hiding the actual evidence of the crime. The transcript itself belies the crime. The motive is the $8 million book deal. And the criminal act was stealing classified information. This is orders of magnitude worse than anything they're accusing Donald Trump of doing. It's such a corrupt system. It really makes your head spin. Joining us in a moment will be Mike McCormick, a man who actually was witness to some of these crimes. He was on the plane with Joe Biden in Ukraine, and there's not a single person on earth who would be able to explain what truly was happening in Ukraine and where the actual skeletons are buried better than Mike. He was at the courthouse yesterday, and he asked a question. Let's go.
Deal in the California case?
I'm a witness to Joe Biden being a criminal on Air Force One, Air Force Two. I need to be in your grand jury. You won't have me there. All right.
Solid gold moment there from Mike McCormick, ladies and gentlemen. If you would like some solid gold in your bank account, you should go check out my friends at Allegiance Gold. Solid gold would be something to invest in because Joe Biden is spiraling us quickly towards World War III, if we're not already in it, and also a financial collapse, and that means commodities are the only things that really go up during wartime. That's why you're seeing people buying precious metals and iron or basic commodities. These things skyrocket when there are times of great instability, and gold is on a tear right now. You should go check out flipping your IRA, your 401k, or just investing in physical gold with my friends at Allegiance Gold. Go to protectwithbenny.com today or call 844-66-BENNY. Right now, get $5,000 in free silver with a qualifying purchase. Go today, protectwithbenny.com today. Call 844-66-BENNY. In times of great confusion about Joe Biden's crimes and, again, where they all lie, we go to the man who witnessed the crimes firsthand and actually recorded them all. Somebody who's quite shocking in his tales of the open criminality of the Bidens. He has an entire book about it, and he joins the program now. His name's Mike McCormick. Mike, thank you so much for being on the program and for your question there at the courthouse.
Absolutely, Benny. It's great to be back with you.
That was wild little time. It looks like you got some photographers snapping photos of you.
Yeah.
You said I was witness to Joe Biden's crimes on Air Force Two. Can you elaborate, please?
Well, so that's what's in my book. The book is The Case to Impeach and Imprison Joe Biden. A year ago, I made a tip to the FBI in February. I witnessed a crime. The crime was I was a stenographer. Jake Sullivan came back and explained to the press on the plane 4 things. They asked him, what's Joe bringing for energy assistance to Ukraine? He mentioned 4 things. 2 of them directly benefited Burisma. No one on the plane at the time knew that Hunter Biden was secretly on the board of Burisma. This is April 21st, 2014. Joe knew. Joe knew because he had a meeting with Burisma board members, Hunter Biden and Devin Archer, in his office 5 days before that. This is in the laptop. These are the emails that are going through the laptop that they don't want to validate, but now they're validated. So I sent a tip to the FBI, and they never got back to me. I sent information to that grand jury, to the guy that was doing that question and answer, David Weiss. He was doing a grand jury in Delaware. Never got back to me. I called their office. They wouldn't take my calls as far as, did you get my information? Do you want me to be in front of grand jury? Wouldn't touch me. So I wrote the book. After I wrote the book, I sent a copy to one of their lawyers, a guy named Leo Wise. Leo Wise was one of the prosecutors in the Hunter Biden trial. He was standing next to David Weiss. As they run out, I'm yelling the question, and they still won't have me in front of the grand jury.
Even though you have the exculpatory evidence that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Joe Biden was engaging in foreign policy that directly benefited his family financially.
Yeah, this is actually, and so after, this is really significant. After I had this confrontation with him in this thing, I went straight downstairs and sat out in front of that building. Well, as I was waiting there, Leo Wise, who I sent my book to, comes out the front door, and I chased him down and I asked him, "Hey, Leo, I want to be in your grand jury. I sent you my book," and I have an audio of it, and he would not admit that I had sent him a book. He says, "Look, I can't talk about the grand jury." I said, "So I'm a witness of Joe Biden's crimes. Can't you have me as a witness in front of the grand jury?" "I can't talk about the grand jury." And so I kind of chased him down, and then he ran away. I mean, literally ran away from me as a citizen saying, "I've got evidence of Joe Biden being a criminal. Your grand jury is investigating it. Why don't you talk to me?" "I can't talk to you," and ran away. Their grand jury, the special counsel, is a fraud. That's the evidence that I just described. They aren't willing to take all the evidence. It's not the whole truth. It's just their version of the truth. We're going to talk about Hunter. We're not talking about Joe.
So it is remarkable, if you actually are a short and quick study and student of history, to go back and see that the FBI and federal agencies were willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for corroboration of the Russian dossier. They did everything that they possibly could to try and dig up and pay for evidence to nail Trump, and they got nothing. And yet here you are standing there with a flaming bag of evidence, which is something that you witnessed as you were a government employee. Yes, you worked for the Obama administration. Yes.
Yeah, I worked for Trump for a year. I worked for Obama for 7 years, and I worked for Bush for 7 years. So I worked a pretty big span of time there in the White House. Operative, and because of that, I wrote the book. That's why I wrote the book. That guy Leo Wise has the book. The book is the evidence, and I had to write the book because I knew after last summer the way the investigation of the oversight committee was going. I got interviewed by them too. I knew that it wasn't going to go for Joe. It seemed to be directing away from Joe and also Barack Obama. There's a whole conspiracy that's in my book that takes in Barack Obama, the Ukrainian embassy, the American embassy in Ukraine, Ambassador Pyatt, and Victoria Nuland are all part of this. And these guys, that's what I would tell the grand jury. And they won't give me a chance to do it. So I had to write the book. This is the evidence. And I was in the court proceedings last week telling journalists at the Washington Post, in NBC News, here's my book. I would open it and show them a passage of it, and they would look at me and they would just say, they knew me because we used to work together, and they would say, "Oh, okay, that's great." But they don't want to report on it because they're getting scooped by a stenographer. They can't stomach that.
Would you be willing to cooperate with a real special counsel that was appointed in a second Trump term?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you were a firsthand witness. You're very credible, Mike. You worked for all these administrations. It sounded like almost 2 decades, right? In the federal employ, working for multiple, a bunch of different administrations. And so again, you don't seem like a political crazy. You're like somebody who witnessed a crime, and there's nobody is interested in investigating that crime. And
it's not just the DOJ, it's also the media. So I'm sitting there amongst the media and I'm showing them my book, and they know I've written this book. I talked to David Nakamura at the Washington Post. "Oh yeah, I was talking to somebody about your book recently." He and I were on the same trip that Joe Biden took in 2013 December that had Hunter Biden on it. So we were talking a little bit about that. And I said, "David, there was some really bad stuff that happened on that trip." And I talked with you guys about it on my last appearance with you, where that started this corruption they had with Metabiota. And I said, "David, there was some really bad stuff." He goes, "I know there was some really bad stuff." That's as far into it as he would go. He doesn't want it. They don't want to dig into it. They're sitting on this story. They haven't acknowledged laptop exists. They don't want to acknowledge it exists. And I'm shoving it in their face. Here's my book. This is the laptop. These are transcripts. There's a video of Joe Biden committing a crime in Ukraine, and you can't report on it, and they won't report on it. And they won't investigate it in the grand jury. That's the travesty. The Congress could defund that grand jury. They could defund the special counsel just because they aren't looking at Joe Biden. This is just like Alina Habba said, this is just a diversion.
Is that what you think about these? I mean, you were there at the courthouse. You're the first person we've spoken with who was actually there at the courthouse. Your takeaway, your snap takeaway on these gun charges?
Yeah, absolutely a diversion. And I was shocked that they came back guilty, actually. I was standing right outside the courthouse when they did, and Hunter's aunt was trying to get in, and they wouldn't let her in the door. Boy, she was spitting mad, And one time I was up there, I drove up. It was a long drive, and I go into the bathroom, and who walks in? But Hunter Biden when I'm washing my hands. So I'm like,
well, really?
This is kind of weird, man. I'm getting out of here.
What'd you tell him?
I didn't say anything. I just got away from that guy. He's too weird. The stuff you see that came out in this trial and the stuff that's in the laptop, this is a deranged guy, and he's part of a deranged family. And to be honest with you, sitting there and looking at the jury, the way the jury reconciled this, there was like two parts of the jury, and they said this. So the 6 juries were sure it was guilty. This was a slam dunk case on the evidence. Mm-hmm. If you're just looking at the evidence, it was a slam dunk case. If you wanted the emotional pitch about you have Hunter's life in your hands, and there's the first lady in the front row, and you're an important person to have this position as a juror, then you would hesitate. But they went back and they went to their homes and their communities overnight, and they thought about it, and they're like, you know what? We're not backing Joe Biden. We don't want Joe Biden we've got to come through for America, not Joe Biden, not the Biden family. Because what came out in the trial was there's a deranged, disturbed family. And the press, some of the press were finally getting it, how evil in the background the Biden family is.
Yeah, I think that's perhaps, and there's a long list, Mike, but perhaps one of the greatest modern lie told is that the Biden is some family of decency and normalcy. And it's just all the way from Joe and Jill's story to the way they raise their kids, to the disaster that is their kids' lives, to the disaster that is their grandkids' lives. This family is a rotten mess, man. I mean, these are deeply, they're inhumane monsters.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe Biden is a win at all cost politician. He's done terrible things to our country and our world, and we're going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing you on the stand, Mike. I'll say we knew him when, right, Mr. Smith goes to Washington. We appreciate you, Mike, and we appreciate your clear-eyed bravery in all of this, because you are sort of David versus Goliath. You're standing up against the behemoth here, and looks like I don't know. It seems like there's some cracks in the facade now, and it's uplifting to see. It's uplifting to see. I think people are waking up.
Thanks, Benny. Yeah, buy the book. If this book goes to number 1 on Amazon, all these media guys don't know what to do. They don't know what to do because it's right in their face, and I'm going to continue to get in their face with it.
The case to impeach and imprison Joe Biden. From your typewriter to God's ears, Mike. Thank you and Godspeed.
Thanks, Benny. Thanks for having me on.
Such interesting people, and the number of people that are willing to come out and testify against Joe Biden is numerous. There are so many people who are willing to come out and say, yeah, this guy's a dirty criminal. Devin Archer, all of these business partners, Tony Bobulinski, Mike McCormick, so many people that worked with Joe Biden and were willing to turn on him. Now, somebody that we're going to be speaking with tonight is named London Roberts. She is the mother of Hunter Biden's child, Navy Joan Roberts. And this is a child that Hunter Biden did everything he could to try and not acknowledge and try to effectively destroy this beautiful child's life. And we're going to be speaking with London Roberts about that. We're going to be asking some questions, obviously, about this gun trial, but then also some questions about Joe Biden as a grandfather. You may recall that the wicked family of the Bidens refused to hang a stocking for their 7th grandchild, refused to ever acknowledge their 7th grandchild, got really angry when anybody would ask about it. They're monsters. They're just this isn't take all the politics out of it, take the political parties out of it, take the prestige out of it, Air Force One and all that stuff. It's inhuman behavior. It's monstrous. And so we're going to be speaking with one of the victims of the Biden crime family and their behavior, London Roberts, tonight at 5 o'clock. Our show in the arena, Tenet Media. That channel is where you can find this program. Please tune in. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be an interesting conversation. We'll probably need to be saying our prayers before this conversation. So I guess we should start with our verse of the day. The reason why is that these kind of conversations make me very angry as a father. I don't know. Are you a dad? Are you a mom? Are you a parent? Do you want to be a parent? Surely you know parents in your life. There is no more holy bond than that between parents and their children. A gift from God. To desecrate and deny that gift, I think, is the greatest moral evil. To abandon that gift is the greatest evil that you can commit on this earth. And so, yeah, serenity now, ladies and gentlemen. With that conversation, we're going to take some deep breaths and use our stress ball, because it makes me angry just thinking about it. Mark 8:36. What good is it for somebody to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? So important. What does it all matter, right? Satan brings Christ up to the very top of the mountain and says, I'm going to give you all the kingdom of the earth. I can give you the whole world. You can have the Burisma contract and $1 billion from China to invest and $3 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife. You can have it all, right? But you just have to worship Satan. That was the caveat. You have to worship Satan. And that didn't fly with Christ, and it shouldn't fly with you either. It's important to understand that the rain falls on the wicked and the good, and that I'm not saying you should live a life of poverty, and I'm not saying that people that have things, that it's all ill-gotten, right? I'm simply, the Good Samaritan is only the Good Samaritan because he had a bag of cash around his belt, right? And he could pay for the guy's medical treatment, care, and lodging. I mean, it's important to do your best to get paid for honest labor, but don't lose yourself in that. Don't lose sight. Don't lose your soul in these things. You know, what you're looking at right now in the landscape of American politics are people who've lost their soul in the pursuit of the treasures of the world. They've lost their morale, their humanity, their morality, their connection with God, just for another scintilla of power. And makes for really bad people. And so don't be counted among them. Be counted among the people who could actually save this place. All God ever asked for, all he asked for in Sodom and Gomorrah, was one good man, one good woman. You should count yourself among them. And that's what you should endeavor to be. And that's certainly what we try and be on this program. Ladies and gentlemen, standing with you, marching with you to truth and to, trying to spit that truth as best we can, and to bring forward people who are in our movement to let you know that you're not alone, that you are part of a happy warriors, very, very salty warriors, and people who stand up for what's right. And it's nice to know you're not alone. Ladies and gentlemen, here's us marching with you, and we say thank you. And it's been a really wild tear as of late, and we're just thankful for you. I don't think you'll find another channel that's more thankful for the chat and for the people, for the community that we're growing here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll sign off with a meme here. It's your boy Benny. We'll see ya.
Let me tell you what's going to happen. You'll probably threaten to resign, but in the end, I will be released. The reason I'll be released is the same reason we think I'll be convicted. I do rub shoulders with some of the most vile, sadistic men calling themselves leaders today. But a president of the United States, sometimes it's embarrassing to have his fingerprints on the guns.